Hello, everyone. Welcome to Inside Monster Jam, the official Monster Jam podcast. I'm Scott Jordan, and today I have the pleasure of being joined in studio by Keith Speller, Monster Jam Senior Director of Operations and Booking. Keith, welcome to Inside Monster Jam.
Hey, Scott, thanks for having me. It's an honor to be on this podcast today.
I appreciate it, man. I see you all the time up here, but you're very elusive, and I say that in a great way because I mentioned this in a call that we had. You're like, as far as guests go, you were my white whale. You're the guy I wanted on this show from the start. When we first put this podcast together, I had to, submit a list of episodes, and I think you were the only one. You and Jamie actually were the only ones that made every single draft of that. So I do appreciate having you here, man. Thank you.
Absolutely, yeah.
So before we talk about what you've been up to, let's talk about where you started here. I know a lot of fans that are true to the sport, that are hardcore fans, know your dad, but I want everybody, the general audience that may not have heard from you before, to know where Keith Speller comes from. So can you talk a little bit about when and where you got started in Monster Jam?
Sure. Well, the cool part is I'm a second generation. Like you just said, Mike Speller, my dad, grew up in this sport, started with truck and tractor pulling, and that's what he was. He was a tech official. And so whenever we made the transition from truck and tractor pulling to monster trucks, I just kind of followed right at his side. And so there's been a lot of evolutions of companies we've worked for, but the main one was TNT Motorsports back in the day with monster trucks. And so, again, I was right at his side. I was doing different things of the remote, what we call the RI. And back then, we don't use the terminology anymore. It was called the killer radio. And but now it's the remote ignition interrupter. And that was my job, is we'd take them out of one truck after they had run, and we'd get them back to the start line. And I was 15 years old back then doing that. So, but I was lucky enough to go on the road with him and just kind of see this whole process evolve. And then, it was something I always wanted to do. And so whenever I graduated high school, I didn't go to college. I went to work for Monster Jam, and at that time, the USHRA, and I was a tech official out on the road. So definitely traveling, inspecting trucks, and hands-on working the floor as the tech official. And so then in 1997, got the opportunity to move to Chicago and become a full-time employee. And basically, that was 25 years ago, and here I am. But I literally started, the day I started, went right to an event. And the next day, one of the coworkers said, "Hey, you better get ready, because I'm going to be leaving and you're going to be booking Monster Jam trucks." Yeah. And so that really started from day number one, with my career.
So when you started as a kid, while you were with your dad, this obviously was a goal of yours to be here, as long as you possibly could, right? You wanted to be a Monster Jam lifelong employee.
Absolutely. It's in your blood. Motorsports is in your blood. This Monster Jam's in my blood. I get up every morning excited to go to work and see what we can, tasks we can handle every day. And, boy, there's a lot of tasks that we handle every day.
Yeah, for sure. And we were in the middle, towards the tail end now of Monster Jam's 30th anniversary season. You've been around for 25 of those, man.
Yes.
I had Scott Douglas on the show last week. I kind of asked him about his experiences at the beginning of the sport. What are some things you remember when you go back to 25 years ago when you first started about Monster Jam, and now you've seen it evolve?
Technology of the trucks more than anything, and just seeing these big trucks with, leaf spring and shocks, just on every corner, and just, heavy but crushing cars. And that's what they were doing. To watch it now evolve into a full race vehicle, all the safety that we've taken to account, and just how it's evolved. It's awesome. And so many people that I've dealt with over the years, and so, one of the first people I dealt with was Gary Porter, and, he always made the joke, he's changed my diaper. And so it's been that long ago, but that's the fun part of being around for so long.
All right, so you mentioned you got the opportunity to start booking the Monster Jam trucks. So you are, basically the architect when it comes to putting these tours together, and you have an incredibly hard, I imagine, job in when it comes to starting out with these 5 tours and having to put all of these drivers in these trucks and put them on a tour. So can you talk a little bit about when the process starts for you to begin looking towards the next season?
Absolutely. And I will say, whenever this started, the process started when I first started booking, there wasn't, we didn't have trucks that we owned or anything like that. So it was using all the independents. And at that point, they went from cross country, East Coast to West Coast, and it didn't matter. And so, once we did start working on the tours and putting them on tours, I don't say made it easier, because everything has challenges, but literally no matter what, that process starts a year in advance at minimum. Our routing and tours department's already working on the booking of the buildings and the venues, and so we're literally a year out of already starting to look at what trucks we want to use from our independent teams, which we want to use the safest and most reliable teams, and there's a lot of great teams out there, so that's the cool part. But we pride ourselves on having the best independent teams out there. So for us, it's a year out that we're already starting to lay things together on the tour.
So, we have some fans watching the show, some listening, but I want to set up a visual that we don't have access to right now, and that's what happens in your office. Keith, office upstairs has this giant white dry erase board that has literally all of these drivers and trucks and tours listed on it. And, at some point, I obviously that thing is wiped clean, and then it's just a process to start filling that board out. So can you talk a little bit about, are there layers to it? Is it something that, you're doing on a daily basis? Is it something you're doing in chunks where you're just kind of filling in this board and kind of making things fit?
Yeah, the board is pretty unique. It really is. And there's two giant boards. We're talking wall to wall on two sides of my office. And, it is to kind of show, it's that hard knocks and that draft day board of, kind of picking and choosing kind of what goes on. And so, not only are we talking about the tours that we have going on right now, but, it's also international. We're looking at a driver pool. We're also working on MJU, and so it's a constant kind of change of kind of how it lays out, and whether it's date changes, it's easier just to go in there. But I'm a visual guy. I got to be able to be hands-on and be able to just turn my chair and take a look at it and visualize kind of where the pieces need to go. Man, when I was a kid, I loved playing like Tetris and puzzles and that, and that's what this is. It's a big giant puzzle trying to put it all and make it all work.
Because you've got 5 tours, you have 48. So 48 is your magic number, 48 trucks, 48 drivers across 5 tours. So I imagine that literally it is a giant puzzle, a Tetris game, where you literally have to mix and match different things like that. So as far as the process goes, because let's talk about 2023, not to give anything away, but we still have events for 2022 that are still going down. Obviously, if you go on monsterjam.com, you see some trucks there, but I'm sure there's still logistical things that you need to do for these final events here. You mentioned international. How are you able to juggle still trying to fill in the gaps for 1 year, focus ahead to the next year, but also look ahead to overseas as well? Because now we are back into this massive Monster Jam world where, now COVID is obviously still affecting, people and things in sports, but we're back in a big way, maybe bigger than we've ever been. So how are you able to juggle all of that on a daily basis?
Stay positive, be able to roll with the punches. That really, it's the main thing of and trying to think ahead, and have plan A, plan B, plan C. You might get through all those, and at one point you're going, I don't know what to do next. And it's, but we got a great team. There's a great team, in our operations department, the fleet team, that we bounce a lot of things off of each other. If we can't figure out one scenario, we come up with another one. So it's really got to get way down the road to not be able to fill that spot. But yeah, just trying to, it could be somebody getting sick and just trying to have that backup pool and who's available, who's not, if tours are off, and just try to have those different scenarios, think ahead of what can and can't be done.
So while you're placing, drivers and trucks, and we also have fleet that's involved in this as well. We have a routing, committee, a routing department that kind of books the buildings and things like that. But who else is involved in this process to, put these drivers and trucks onto these tours? Is it an entire operations staff that does this?
It is. It's I'm going to say committee. We're basically, we bounce a lot of things by each other. So it's the operations team: Jamie, myself, Andrew, Dustin, Bill Easterly, Todd General. We're all working on this, coming into my office, looking at the whiteboard and really just kind of seeing how it all kind of lays, from an event standpoint. We're looking at from the events, there might be some things that don't really route good. Maybe we move them from different tours to make it route better, for a transportation side. How the truck's going to get worked on, where they getting worked on, let alone then, when can we move into the buildings and things of that nature. So not only are we just looking at the specific trucks and drivers, but it's everything that goes involved.
And, we mentioned on the scheduled announcement show, we have the Driver Summit coming up in November where more information will come out. So what's happening with you right now when it comes to 2023 as far as building towards the Driver Summit?
So we were able to, again, announce several trucks, out already. So the remaining holes is, we're working through MJU. We're excited that MJU is up and running. Got some great people that went through our tryouts, and we're working through now, starting to train some of those. And so hopefully that's another reason that we kind of have to wait to see how this whole thing plays out and who's going to go what on tour, what changes. It's those kind of trades that happen in the NFL, that might be the last minute. And so no matter what, I've been doing it a long time. There's always that stuff that pops up that even in September, nothing's ever final until we get on site there at that first show.
I know you mentioned earlier in the conversation about your independence. When you first started doing the booking here, it was all independence, and you had to really, dive in onto your traveling. Who's going to be able to do that? We still have a lot of independent teams that are involved in Monster Jam. So what do you look for, from an independent team that you want to work with and bring them into Monster Jam? Because we have some great ones. We have Team Scream, we have Team Throttle Monster, Tom Fullery, just to name a few. But what do you look for when it comes to an independent team to bring into the sport to be a part of what we're doing here?
Yeah, infrastructure, that's one. But there's a lot that goes into trying to maintain, to go through a full tour of what we do on Monster Jam. It takes a lot. It takes a lot for them to keep the pace up, week in, week out, and run at that high level that we want to on a Monster Jam. That's what makes us the best. And so, there's a lot of great teams out there that unfortunately we just don't have enough spots to go around that we can't do. So there are some teams that are on the outside looking in. Again, drivers, the safety. Safety is number one with what we do. So that we're looking at just the team overall.
And what is your relationship like with some of these independent teams? Is it something where you give them a call before the season, say, hey, we have a couple spots here. How many trucks would you have available? Can we make this work? Is it something like that, or is it just you've built up a relationship for so long that just a couple emails are sent and that's it? You can lock them down.
A little bit of both. It's a little bit of both. We even have. It's making that phone call. We can call Jim Kohler and say, hey, this is what we got, and we're rolling. And so again, that relationships that we've built over, again, in my case, 25 years, definitely makes it easy. But we're also looking to how we can elevate them, Sure. And so like really right now we do have teams at Monster Jam University that are training with the professor, Tom Mentz. And so that's what's kind of cool too, that we want to help elevate their craft and make sure that they're the best that they can be. And so people that are open to that and want to come be a part of it, it just, again, we want to make Monster Jam the best.
And you have some really well-established independent teams out there. Jim Kohler mentioned 4 trucks on one tour this past year. That's got to take, at least a little bit of burden off of you when you have a guy I want to say as confident and as capable as Jim Kohler is that has 4 trucks. And Jamie Gardner as well had multiple trucks on multiple tours. So that's got to at least take a little bit of stress maybe off of you, knowing that we have these independent driver owners that have all of these trucks that are very capable and responsible and have that infrastructure.
Absolutely. And if they run into a problem, they're fixing it, they're getting it done. And it's, I love it because they don't throw their hands up, and I'm not saying everybody does, but it just makes we got enough going on right. That whenever we know that we, hire them, that we're getting the best drivers and their staff, and they're going to make the call when need be. And if they can't, they figure out a way to do that. And then we work together, on making it happen as well.
Well, let's talk about recruitment, because I know that's a big part of your job as well, not just booking the tours, but finding new talent to come in and go to MJU and drive these trucks. So before we get to MJU, what do you look for when you are looking for new talent, somebody to bring in to the sport? Is it something that people contact you, or you contact them, or you just kind of a global kind of deal where you're always looking and whatever you find, you work with?
Everywhere.
Yeah.
Definitely networking. It could be drivers at shows that have the communication with the fans that say, hey, I'm interested, and they're giving them our contact information and we get an email that way. It can be us just going out on social media and finding, individuals that were like, hey, they got a good story, they got a good background, let's see if it'll work. And it doesn't all have to be motorized, and it could be anything. We look at the stunt world, we look different things. Our casting department, again, different departments here at Feld Entertainment. Casting department helps immensely trying to find other talent as well. And so it comes in all different forms, fashions, and that's what we like. And so ultimately what we really, that individual, it's one, seeing what story they have, getting their background, the personality. It's got to be that connection with the fans that they can make. That's Monster Jam. That's what we're all about, is a connection with the fans. And so if they can't do that, then we don't get that from the beginning, they go a little lower on the list. And so there's just, I guess that's probably the couple quick things that we do.
Yeah. Is there anyone you can remember? And I know you've probably seen a lot of tapes and a lot of submissions from drivers, potential drivers. Anybody that you saw where you immediately thought this guy, this girl is going to be a big star. This person has what it takes. And I know you've seen a lot of people. It's okay if you don't have anybody that you can think of. I'm sure there has to be somewhere where something clicks right away, and you're like, okay, or even the opposite end of the spectrum where you're like, I don't see it, but then it still might happen.
It's interesting, and that's honest. It's you kind of go with the gut, to start with, that at least bring them in. I can't say that we're like, oh my God, that's the star. We've seen so much. They've elevated the game so much, I mean, when Tristan and Tyler came in and started out, they were good, but man, they've just elevated the game and the performance level. That's amazing, I mean, and I think that's what's so crazy, that's when I sit back and go, wow, and so, but no, those two I can remember going through, and it used to be, we looked at people that had the motorized background, sure. Could be coming from the ATVs, and they always seem to do a little bit better, pick it up quicker, but not anymore. It could be anybody, I mean, and I love telling the story about Bari, with just the RC background, in that hand-eye coordination, right. and it definitely goes to what you do inside the Monster Jam truck. And so he's our poster child for what we do at MJU. And
that's a story I tell all the time on TV. It's one of the craziest things I've ever heard, that you see this guy driving this RC truck on a track, and you think, you know what, he's really good at that, so I bet he's going to be really good at this. And you were absolutely 100% right. And to me, that is fascinating that you've done this for so long, that you can see that kind of talent at a different level and translate that into what you could see behind the wheel. So that's pretty cool. And I think right now in Monster Jam, we have, I've only been here for 6 years, but I've watched it for a long time. And I feel like we have the biggest talent pool right now of talented female and male drivers, that literally any given night, anybody can win a competition. I think that's amazing.
Absolutely. And a lot of it is, the Monster Jam University, and them training, and Tom working with them, countless hours, reviewing video and that, and what people do with simulators and everything like that. So, I mean, yes, it's amazing of what they've done.
So we'll get to some fan questions a little bit, but a topic that kept coming up from fans out there that submitted questions for you was how can they get your attention to be a driver? You touched on it a little bit. So let's just say, and this is not quoted, people, I'm not quitting the broadcast, but let's just say I decided, hey, you know what? I'm leaving the booth. I want to be a Monster Jam driver. What would I have to do to get your attention, to possibly get that opportunity?
Yeah, the submission's, pretty easy. It's send me a resume, a bio, about yourself, and even a short little video that tells us why you think you'd be a good Monster Jam driver, a good fit for Monster Jam, and how you can make that connection with the fans. That's really kind of where we start. That's what I want to kind of know. It gets us to know you, and then obviously we get on the phone and we start talking. But that's the first steps. It really is.
And again, I'm not leaving the broadcast booth, folks. I'm not driving. I might drive next year, maybe like a one-off here. We'll talk about that a little bit later. Let's talk about MJU right now. You were just there, trying to put in some of these new prospective drivers, through Tom's teachings and seeing what they have. What's a week for you like at Monster Jam University?
Yeah, Monster Jam University, powered by UNOH. The week's pretty crazy for Tom. When we get into our auditions or our tryouts, it's pretty crazy just bringing people down here to the facility, getting to see the facility, and then kind of work with our different teams of PR and to get to sit in a truck for the first time, and that really, it starts just with what we do outside of the truck before we do anything, on the track, because it is that important of what we do, and with the connection with the fans. And so that part stays pretty busy for us. But then once we get up and they're working with the professor, it's a 9 to 5, and starting, basically I'm going to say 8 to 5, and you get more seat time in that truck over a 3-day period than you do, doing a full tour throughout the season, because it's just, repetition and keep going at it, keep working, and trying to really work on whether it's new moves, whether it's, overall, like, so the candidates we have there right now, I mean, they're really just focusing on trying to get through a full event and what consists of a full event and the different competitions, and trying to do, we haven't got into them, into stunts or good tricks yet. So, but that'll come.
And Paxton is a very small town. There's not a lot of distractions there. So really, when you're there, you are eating, breathing, sleeping, these Monster Jam trucks, and you really have to devote yourself to be in that experience, right? Because there's not a lot to do, but if you're not dedicated to learning, then you're not going to stand out amongst the competitors, right?
Correct. Yeah. And it takes time. Then that's why we do a lot of videos. People can again look at where they can improve, and it gets them out of the truck. And again, you can't just keep over and over and over with somebody. But yeah, you got to eat, breathe, sleep it, and the cool part is they keep coming back. So. Yeah.
Well, when we talk about Tom, so 20 years in Max D next year, when you saw Tom start his career, and I asked Scott Douglas this question as well. I asked him if he could have anticipated Tom's success when he first saw him compete. For your question is a little bit different. Could you have anticipated Tom, really stepping? I mean, he's obviously a competitive driver and won a series championship and a couple more world championships. But could you have anticipated him, being this involved in training new drivers and having this MJU, powered by UNOH in his backyard, and being such a giver to the sport that he's really trying to bestow what he has learned through his career to drivers that have not even stepped foot on a track yet?
Absolutely. From day one, Tom's always wanted to make Monster Jam the best, and he wanted to be the best, and he is the best. But just, looking at, he wanted to go to events and make sure that he was the best on the microphone. That was his concentration, and so knowing how he advanced throughout his career, and when it came time that we were talking about doing something, with a Monster Jam University, that he definitely was raising his hand going, yep, I want to do that. We had some form or fashion a little bit back then, but not like it is to where it's in, his backyard and really gets to focus and, again, eat, sleep, and breathe it day in, day out. So, yeah, I really could see it, and he's embraced it.
It's amazing to me, and I've talked to him about this before, that he teaches all these young drivers, and you mentioned, Tristan England, Tyler Menega, as to up and coming, and I don't want to say up and coming because they're superstars now, but just the future of the sport. He has to train them and kind of show them some of his secrets and how he does things, that he's still able to go out there and beat them. I think that is fascinating, and I call him the Tom Brady of Monster Jam, because Tom Brady, at 45 is still playing better than 22, 23-year-old quarterbacks in there. So, are you at all amazed by what Tom is able to do as a competitor still?
Oh, absolutely. Watching him at Monster Jam World Finals, and watching not only him but everybody at Monster Jam World Finals, but watching him and what he was able to do this past year was amazing. And knowing that 20th year of Max D's coming up is going to be amazing too, and he wants to be the best, and it just he showed it there at Monster Jam World Finals that, hey, I can teach everybody. But again, a lot of him teaching, he learns a lot too, and that's what's so cool.
Let's talk about the women's evolution in Monster Jam. A lot of female drivers right now rising to the top of the sport. We see Kristen Anderson, Lindsay Reed, Kayla Blood, Cynthia Gautier. From a recruitment standpoint, are you seeing more of a level playing field when it comes to potential female drivers and what you're seeing from their backgrounds as they try to enter the ranks of Monster Jam?
Absolutely. Even playing field, yes. And then it's just a matter of them going out on the track and really executing, and they're doing that. And that's what we're seeing right now going through Monster Jam University as well. So yeah, no doubt about it.
And do you imagine that'll continue to evolve even further? I mean, we have some phenomenal female drivers. I imagine, in my opinion, over the years, we'll see more of an influx of female competitors as well.
I do. Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, international, I mean, as we expand and, really try to do more things, we just need more talent. And so, yeah, that talent's we need talent.
There
we
you
need
go.
drivers.
You hear it from Keith Speller. We need talent. So get those submissions in. I apologize.
And it's not taken away from the talent we do have. Don't get me wrong.
Correct.
It's not.
Let's talk about UNOH a little bit. A lot of young technicians coming out of that school. MJU is powered by UNOH, and we have technicians there as well as drivers, as well as hosts. It's basically a factory, for everyone in Monster Jam to come and learn. So what kind of impact would you say that UNOH has had on some of the talent coming in?
Oh, great. Their curriculum that they do up there, UNOH, sets them up for success for what we do, with our technicians and everything like that. And we've seen it, week in, week out. So I know that more people are going to UNOH and they want Monster Jam to be their career. And we're setting that up that they can, it can be their career. So excited to have it. It's a great partnership, and we're excited to be a part of it.
I wish, UNOH was an option for me when I was 18, because I didn't know anything about it. I went to the University of Central Florida, but the fact that there is a school here, a very well-known, high-profile school that has a high-performance motorsports program, to me, as somebody, obviously that's heavily involved in the sport, that is something you don't find anywhere. You don't find it very often. And I do feel that a lot of fans come up to me during these events and ask, how can we get into Monster Jam? How can we do this? I think that is, if there was ever, a surefire way other than, sending you 20 emails, that, trying to study at MJU and UNOH would be a viable option for that.
Yes, totally agree.
So, that being said, if a potential driver, comes up to you, let's say you're at Arlington, you're just hanging out, make sure everybody's good. Some kid comes up and says, Mr. Speller, I saw you inside Monster Jam. I want to be a Monster Jam driver when I grow up. Where is the best place to start? I know there are multiple options. We talked about UNOH. We've talked about, in past episodes here, being a crew chief, a technician, learning your craft, going to another sport. But is there, if I were to ask you that, what would be the first thing that came out of your mouth?
Well, first thing I'd be like, well, send me your resume, and let's see, maybe we can work something through a tryout and things of that nature. But, if we don't have the spot, there's people that have come up and we said, hey, try to work for an independent team. That really, it gets you acclimated to being on the road, working on the trucks, knowing your equipment, and then hopefully driving if that's, at some point. But if that didn't work and that didn't, it's a waiting game. And there's been a lot of people. Bryce Kinney waited a long time before he got the opportunity, really did. And we're glad that we got him, but there's people that had to wait quite a while to get that opportunity.
Well, and as you mentioned, there's a lot more components involved other than just being able to drive a truck. You do have to be good on the microphone, as you mentioned. And, you had Scott Douglas working with some of these prospective drivers on media training. So obviously, if you're out there watching and you want to be a Monster Jam truck driver, it's not just about how fast you can go and what you can do in two wheels. I'm going to put a microphone in your face and you're going to have to talk, right? That's it. You have to be charismatic. You have to be able to do that. You have to be able to fit the role of someone the fans want to see.
Absolutely. Yeah. Personable, interaction with the fans, communication, the microphone, just having a good time. And there's a lot of people having a good time out there, but it is. And we do put people through, they go through our tryout process. We tell them, hey, go practice, stand in front of the mirror and work on your interview skills, and then let's see how it progresses, and then, work with that. And that's what Scott's done too. But it's things you can do on your own without, with that, again, send us the video, and then, and we can stay up on it.
There has to be a connection, because at Monster Jam, I feel like, and I've said this before, I'll say it again, but our athletes, our superstars are more accessible than any other sport I have ever witnessed. I've never been to an NFL game where I can see every single player on the team lined up for 3 hours to meet their fans. Same with Supercross. So those riders have a lot going on that day, but they're limited in the access you have to. Monster Jam, you're out there for 3 hours, sometimes 4 hours with early access, and you have to be able to sign every autograph, take every picture, and engage with everybody. So there's a lot to it.
It's a long day.
Yeah,
it's a long day. And you have to be able to know that that's a long day. And yes, smile, and you put that smile on, and it is interaction, and you treat everybody, everybody's going to have a different question for you, and so it is that you have to basically keep that smile on and be able to interact, and it's cool, that's one part that I really enjoy, walking through the pit party and just, seeing the interaction. And when we don't, or myself, I like to get out to the event. It definitely gets you excited about what we do. Cause sitting in the office at times you do kind of but once you can feel what the fans cheering, the interaction, everything like that, man, it gets us pumped up and gets us excited and proud of what we do.
That's amazing. Well, I have some fan questions for you. Again, you guys can submit your fan questions to me every week. Facebook, Instagram, Scott Jordan, MJSX. You can also find the questions on the Monster Jam account Instagram page, so be on the lookout for that. So let's get to some of these fan questions. If you could bring back one thing from the past of Monster Jam, what would it be? And this comes from wizard.ui on Instagram.
That's a good question. I think, there's a lot of cool things, and they're already kind of coming back, which we've just tried, some of these old school introductions, which is cool. So there's some things that have coming back, which I like, and it's still nice with pyro and, to see that, but it's also cool knowing where we're going to take it to, but I can't say that there's one specific thing. I like the little subtle things that we do. And I can't say that there's one specific thing.
Is there room for nostalgia in Monster Jam to kind of come back in and out? And I just mean that in a general sense, is because we always hear some fans, that miss the old days of the drag racing and the crush cars and things like that. Is there some room somewhere in the sport for some nostalgia to come back, to try and at least give a wink to those fans in those days?
I think there is. Yeah. I do. I think there is. And, maybe it's in the track design at times, and I know we tried bringing some things back too. But yeah, track design is definitely one of them that, maybe there's that crazy track, that we did back in the Silver Dome, back in the day, things like that. So yeah, there is definitely some things for nostalgia.
Awesome. Monster Truck Updates on Instagram wants to know what the best part of your specific job is with Monster Jam.
It's going to sound stupid, but everything, I really enjoy everything that every part of it. Again, this was whenever as a child, growing up, this is what I wanted to do as a career. And when you get to kind of live that out, and be 25 years, as a career so far, and I'm not done. But it's just, I think every day, like I said, getting up every day, it's what's coming next. And it's just exciting. It's exciting of where we've been and where we're going to go. The COVID shutting us down for a little bit and coming back strong, and seeing just that transition, and now where we're at and where we're going to go is it's the fun part about it.
Well, and the next question from Justin S104 it has to do with COVID. What would you describe the difference between Monster Jam before and after the pandemic?
Yeah, there was so many different things. Just where we couldn't be with the fans, they couldn't interact the way we normally do, and so now being back and knowing that we're back, I think is the key thing, and now feeling that we're just selling tickets, and we want to entertain fans and do some cool things, and that's what we're doing. But I think that's what it is. It feels like we're back.
Is there ever a point, when it comes to your job and booking these tours that you get to, somewhere during the season, just look at these, 5 series championships going on and just kind of sit back in awe and pride and say, you know what, I had a big hand in putting this competition together. I had a big part in what these fans are being entertained with night after night.
Absolutely. And honestly, it happens on a weekly basis because we review a lot of video, and just to see what they're doing week in, week out. And it's right there, and it's like, wow, that is just, it's amazing to see what they're doing. So it's that you feel good, feel good that, and then whenever somebody gets their first overall championship, you're not there with them, but you have that connection. And, it was cool. Miranda Kozad doing her first backflip, and just things like that you get to see and to be a part of, and knowing that, setting up that tour and that type of stuff, it's cool.
It's amazing to me when we do these announcement shows and we look at the lineups, how stacked they all are. It's amazing to me that you can literally, from top to bottom on 5 tours, keep it as competitive and as balanced as you do. I know that's not an easy task, especially when we have these phenomenal drivers.
Yeah. It's the hardest part. It really is. And trying to, we could easily stack everything, and have one dominant tour, but we do have so many good drivers top to bottom, and that's what's so exciting about it, and a lot of it, again, training that they're doing on their own or at MJU. It really evens the playing field. It's great.
All right, let's do one more question and I'll let you get out of there. So this one, I think it's that MJ guy on Instagram is asking about Vegas, and obviously you being around here for 25 years, you were a part of the glory days at Sam Boyd Stadium, which is no longer an option anymore. So we still run the Thomas and Mack Center in Vegas, and he's asking if there are any plans, or if you know of any plans to get back into a full-size stadium, possibly Allegiant. I asked Jamie this question. He had a great answer for it, but I want to know from your opinion as well, because you've been around for 25 years, what your thoughts on Monster Jam not being in a stadium in Vegas, and do you ever see us getting back there?
Yeah, I mean, it's awesome that we're at Thomas and Mack, it is, and at least Monster Jam is in Las Vegas, so that's key number one. So definitely keep buying your tickets and go next year. But yeah, being at Monster Jam World Finals, and I was at every one of them. And there was only a handful of us, I think 2, that was at all Monster Jam World Finals in Las Vegas. But yeah, it'd be cool to do something. I don't know if that's going to happen. Unfortunately, it's not up to me, but it would be cool to see something happen in Las Vegas in the stadium. But it is cool also just to be in the area at Thomas and Mack and really that connection. And it's a great event at Thomas and Mack.
And we actually, for our fans, we have an arena series in 25 from the Thomas and Mack Center in Las Vegas that is either available now or will be available soon, so they can check out the atmosphere there. It is electric, because those fans that are in that area, whether it's Vegas, LA, San Diego, that miss having that World Finals event, they fill that arena, and it's an electric atmosphere.
Absolutely.
So I have one request before I let you go. So if I get a chance to get behind the wheel of a truck for next year, whether it's for one lap, one day, can you save a small space on your whiteboard for my name to go up there just for one day?
So it just has to go on the board. It doesn't have to be attached to anything.
It does not have to be attached for anything, just that I make the whiteboard for one day.
I probably could make that happen. And by the way, you weren't the only person to add that request, but I haven't added anybody's name, but I think I could find space for it.
I appreciate that. Well, Keith Speller, thank you so much, man. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Absolutely.
I look forward to talking to you again. I'm sure you have your hands full between now and the summit, but maybe after November you can take like a week or a month off just to reflect on your
We're probably looking, I don't know, after Monster Jam World Finals in 23. So July sounds pretty good right now.
There you go. For you folks out there, thanks so much for watching and listening. Don't forget, we are available on YouTube and monsterjam.com. You can download us on Spotify, Google Podcasts, and Apple Podcasts. That's all the time we have for today. I will see you right back here next time when I take you inside Monster Jam.